Slade.
Slade.
Had to be done. On August 4th, we got the newest of DC animated movies. Well, it was technically a series that dropped January 6th, and then... But yeah, it was a series, and now it's a movie, so I guess... Damn it! Slade! On August 4th, we got the newest of DC animated movies, Deathstroke Knights and Dragons. Knights and Dragons had a digital release of 8/4, with the Blu-ray coming August 18th. If you're new here, consider subscribing to the channel by clicking the subscribe button as well as the notification bell to make sure you don't miss any of our new content. Tune in for weekly and bi-weekly vid series all about the futuristic Batsuit Beyond. Originally, the new Deathstroke flick was a 12-part series launched on everybody's favorite streaming app, the CW Seed. I quite honestly had no idea this app existed until the other day.
You see, I have a secret.
I knew CW had an app for years now, but the Seed? Anyway, yet another thing unbeknownst to Benjamin was that the 38-minute pilot episode of Knights and Dragons had been sitting on the Seed for the whole world to watch, completely for free, and nobody was talking about it. And none of you told me, so thanks. But yeah, after watching the K&D movie, I came upon the Seed in my research about this mysterious Deathstroke series gone feature. I knew about the series getting cancelled for an upcoming feature, but I'm still not over this Seed business. Since January, people.
You have no idea what's out there.
And while I'm still on this Seed rant, remember going to Target that one day a while back, and there was a Blu-ray for sale no one on this earth knew was coming? You remember Constantine's City of Demons? Pretty good movie. Also apparently a series, then adapted to a feature.
Oh, that's not good.
Parts 1 and 2 of that movie are available on the Seed for free too.
Available now on CW Seed.
Open the bloody door, John.
No one told me what is going on with this website. There's a final DC animated flick on the Seed right now, and it's the rather random, yet pretty good, DCAU title, Mystery of the Batwoman. So, because I know you guys are always on that website, now you got a new watch list for the Seed. But watching the K&D pilot on the Seed, I quickly found my suspicions about the feature to be correct. Again, going into the Knights and Dragons feature, I knew the project was originally a series. I, among many DCAM fans, were immediately skeptical upon seeing the trailer that this movie might be a disjointed Frankenstein of Deathstroke the animated series. Turns out we were mostly right, but it still came out better than expected. And some of it was flat out spectacular. Namely the comic-inspired animation, as well as certain aspects of the action. Minus the very short opening scene of the movie, as far as I could tell, 100% of the 38-minute pilot is in the first 45 minutes of the feature. The feature, by the way, is almost 90 minutes, which, quick sidebar, I personally don't prefer over the shorter DC animated movies. For some of them I think it works, like Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, because you're closing a whole universe, so that made sense, but I don't know. I really enjoy these movies specifically because they can be short, almost a medium of their own, since they're still accepted as features, but they can be 70-75 minutes long. I think it's a good writing exercise more of these filmmakers should try. This movie being a prime example of what can happen when you feel the need to fill 90 minutes indiscriminately. So again, the scene at the very end of the pilot is at the 45-minute mark of the Knights and Dragons movie. Assuming each of the originally planned 12 episodes ran 30 to 38 minutes, you're looking at a 6 to 8 hour story. Granted, it's the story's intro.
But you're a mercenary.
It definitely makes sense to front-load the first half of the feature with more of the series' intro content, especially with an origin story. But still, the entire pilot? So half the running time of a feature is a character's intro? I feel they needed to get through each phase of the plot much faster. And again, that's even taking into account this being an origin story.
And the people that you love have paid a terrible price.
So I love the animation in Knights and Dragons. And before getting into why, here's a fun DCAM fact about animation and this new Deathstroke flick. This is the first new DC animated movie to come out post-Tuckerverse, or as some people call it, the DeCamu, the New 52-verse. Whatever you call it, it's over. The universe was concluded in May with the epic DeCamu-spanning endgame of Tuckerverse finales, the J.L. Dark Apocalypse War. While there had been movies coming out every year outside that universe and animation style, it was nice to get the first of a fresh new style and universe from Knights and Dragons. And speaking of animation departures from the Decamu,
Breaking news.
stay tuned for our upcoming video on Superman Man of Tomorrow, the next DCAM set for release on August 22nd. Also, here's a link right up here to our first episode covering December's Death in the Family, another non-Decamu DCAM. So again, love the animation. And not only because of the departure from the recent flicks. The backgrounds in this movie had this amazing comic book inspired paper texture, especially when something was brightly lit, like gunfire or spotlights. You get that old-timey comic feeling, seeing a bunch of small white dots fill the background. This animation choice was easily one of my favorite aspects of the whole film. I adore when animation embraces the medium of comics and old-timey cartoons. Namely in the case of DC animation, stories and characters that come directly from comics. The comic backgrounds in this movie reminded me a lot of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, another case in which animation was one of my favorite parts of the film. That movie was a multimedia explosion of love for Spider-Man. I'm so happy to find DC movies now giving that same touch to their projects. Character design and style was right up my alley in Knights and Dragons, with thick, pronounced outlines and kind of boxy features. They still feel like cartoon characters, which is my personal preference. I really appreciated the character movement in this too. People looked sharply rotoscoped, almost like that Waking Life movie, but then it was set against the comic background, so again, it still felt like a cartoon. And finally for animation, vehicles look better than ever, with the exception of Batman vs. TMNT, of course. Vehicles in that movie were flawless.
Michelangelo, press some buttons.
I always complain about this in DC animation, but with a few rare exceptions, the vehicle movement is just off.
Damien?
It often feels like a 3D vehicle just transposed onto a 2D movie. Knights and Dragons had a few moments like that, for example with some of the fighter jets at the end, but for the most part, vehicles looked a lot better in Knights and Dragons than we've seen for a while. So that's another thing that excites me about being out of the Decamu for good.
I'ma hit all of them!
Hey, this is Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman, telling you to go above and Batman Beyond.
If you're new here, consider subscribing to the channel and share this video with other Bat fans beyond who would also like this kind of content. In addition to this new clip-style series you saw today, we also have a bunch of interviews here on the channel with cast and crew from Batman Beyond, including both Batmen of the future, Kevin Conroy and Will Friedle. So make sure to stay tuned to the channel for more interview content as well.